that are married longer than me, that have been married for, a while, and still these certain basic tenements of communication and marriage are lost on them. They look at me like I'm crazy. And when we discuss it and they put it into application, they come back and they're like, I don't understand. I don't understand why is everything different right now? And I want to be clear here. It's not me or my magic principles in marriage. It's very simply putting our best foot forward. Fear is the number one reason why people don't do well financially. Fear
So
of
this,
planning, fear of being ready, fear of talking about it, fear of not spending, fear of spending. Fear is the number one reason that we run into problems with this. And we have to remove that fear. And we know there's only one way to remove fear. Now, the Rambam says, and in general, we know this, we don't like jumping to ends of spectrums. No end of a spectrum, no extreme is good. It looks good from our extreme end. So if I cannot sleep at night because I spent an extra $3 somewhere that I shouldn't have spent, if I can't sleep at night, the result for me, or the good end for me, is not to end up being extremely spendthrifty and going around and spending all my money. That's not the dream. The dream is to be balanced. The dream is to develop a balance. That's the concept. Not many years ago, a few years ago, I was I'll call it many, I don't know at this point. I was taking a hypnosis course in hypnosis, and in something called conversational hypnosis, and which means being able to hypnotize people without them knowing. And now I want you to transfer all your money into my accounts. No, it's not. I'm not doing it now. And or am I? No, we're not doing this the rest of the time. So so I was taking this course, and we were dealing for a few minutes. We were dealing with phobias, and phobias are very interesting, very, very interesting thing. Why we develop these illegitimate, crazy fears for things, but it's for a different time. However, we were talking about phobias, and he said, choose something that you're afraid of and work with your partner on everything that you've learned. So it was a lot of partner work in hypnosis. So I happen to have always had, since I was a little kid and so Indiana Jones, I always had a very large fear of snakes. And I said to the guy, we're going to do snakes. So we're working on it, doing the hypnosis back and forth, and it worked. It was amazing. I had what's called a subconscious test, where I thought to myself, what would happen if someone came up to me with a snake right now, and I'd be fine. Whereas beforehand, even if I saw a picture of a snake, it would freak me out a little bit. So sure enough, I'm walking home afterwards. I know no one knows where this story is about to go. I didn't run into a snake. Don't worry about it. I'm walking home afterwards, and I was actually walking in Ramat Eshkol. I don't know who said before that they're from Ramat Eshkol, but I was actually walking in Ramat Eshkol home down Sheshet Yamim, and I come onto Levi Eshkol, and I'm walking by the buildings over there, and there's that little piece over there of just barren land, and I was saying to myself, what would happen right now if a snake, if a king cobra, a dangerous snake, comes slithering out of these bushes? And I was like, I would still freak out and run. It wouldn't. So the next day, I said to the instructor, I'm like, Gedalia, to be honest with you, I was walking home last night, and I was very confident before that, but I was walking home last night, and I thought to myself, oh, what happens if a snake comes running out of here? I'm going to freak out and run. He was like, yeah. He's like, let me give you a case that you're not dealing with so you can understand better. He's like, if you had someone who was afraid of dogs, right? And you hypnotize them to not be afraid of dogs. And then they come back to you and they say, I don't know, I saw this rabid dog with its teeth bared running directly for me, and I was scared. So I don't know if the hypnosis worked. He's like, I'm not trying to turn you into a crazy person. You shouldn't stand there. If a king cobra snake comes slithering out of the bushes, you should be running away. We don't go to these extremes. And fear is what leads us to either extreme on any side, and they're never smart or healthy. They're never safe. So what is? So number one is that if we're bad with money on our own, or if we're bad with anything on our own, and the odds are is that we can have ourselves convinced of that. There's no real bad or good over here. There's understanding the system or not. And really, not to get into a tirade on this or a tangent, I run a high school over here, as Rabbi said, and my students definitely have issues sometimes with money. One of them just bought me this chair, and there was no need for that, right? So but they, but I try to put into our system as much as possible, into our schooling over here, just the basics of dealing with money. Why? Because we're thrust into the world, given a job, and the most important part of jobs, of working, of all these things, we go to school and we are trained for every other aspect. Every other aspect. Don't steal, don't this, don't lie, don't get brought to court, don't, none of these things, we don't, but the basics, we're left to hang dry about. Some guy in a bank is going to half explain it to us one time when we're opening up an account. We start off at a crazy unfair advantage. So I don't like the term, this person is bad with money or this person is good with money. I like the term, this person knows what he's doing with money and this person doesn't. Not out of any fault of their own, but simply because how are we supposed to learn this? And no one makes a big deal. As a matter of fact, we go the other way with it. So much of our upbringing is demonizing money. You have a wealthy, if you ever seen two non-wealthy people speak about a wealthy guy, they're like, yeah, he has millions of dollars, but trust me, you don't want to be him. Like, I'd rather people be like talking about me being like, he's poor. He's poor. I'd much rather that than that knowing, look, trust me, I know he has millions of dollars, but you don't want to be him. Like, we always need an excuse to why a wealthy person is suffering in some way. We demonize money. We demonize even the thought of talking about it. And this is the problem. Is the beginning of our problem. Is that, number one, we walk into life at a disadvantage of being uneducated in monetary subjects, in any sort of finance. We think, saving money versus this versus that. We don't really understand the difference. We don't understand. However, when someone goes out to seek the education, they already just made one of the smartest financial moves of their life. They just made one of the wisest financial moves of their life. The Ramchal says, right? I would say lahavdil, but it's not, because money is not an evil thing. The Tanoim, the Amoraim, they were all wealthy, or a good portion of them were all wealthy. How do I know that? Aside from the fact that the Gemara says it, I always used to think of this as a kid. It's always like, the Amoraim Tanaim, they're always meeting in someone's massive vineyard and drinking wine. It sounded like a lot of fun back then. I don't know. They would just sit in the vineyard, learn Torah, and drink wine together. It sounded amazing. That is not what was going on, by the way. That is inaccurate information you just received. But it always seems like that in the Gemaras. Definitely in the Agaritas. So there's no evil to taking wealth seriously. Right, we all of a sudden we got very machmer on the time we spend doing things when we're talking about money. Having financial responsibilities equals financial stress. Every responsibility we have will equal stress. Now, if we have children, we're not necessarily taught to be parents either. But it becomes an obvious thing. We look around, we see our parents, we see other people. How many people are afraid to do certain things with their children because their parents messed that up for them? They don't want to be like that in front of their kids. And then to the positive side, which I like to try to stay on also sometimes, which is that how many things do their parents do that they're dying to do for their kids? They would love to give them that experience. It's tremendous. So you pick these things up as far as parenting and all these things, but again, finances, not many parents sit down and discuss finances, discuss financial abilities with their kids. unless it plays a big role. If you have a very, very wealthy family and tzedakah and all these things play a very big role in their day-to-day, it might get discussed. But other than that, it doesn't really get discussed enough. So we walk in at this crazy disadvantage. The biggest problem with the disadvantage is that if you have a single person, if you have one person sitting over there trying to make sense of a disadvantage, he could sign up to a Mesila, he could sign up to anywhere, get his information, get a little coaching, get his thing, and he's good to go. The Ramchal says that the first step to working on anything, especially, and he says this in Perek Gimel, Mesilas Yesharim, Perek Gimel by Zehirus, he says the most important thing, Ramchal Ramosha Chaim Latzato. I just realized it. The only people with a camera on are very religious looking Jews. I don't know. There might be a guy who is not a religious Jew over here, and why would you even know what I'm talking about? So Ramosha Chaim Latzato, he was a Torah scholar who specifically was a very, very deep thinker and wrote many Kabbalistic and Musar Sfarim, books on the topics of Musar, which is ethics, if we have to translate that into English. So it's like self-improvement more, but I've heard it both ways. It depends. So he says the first step to what we call zihirus, which is watching oneself. We can translate it in English. I've heard it translated in English as discipline. One of the first steps to becoming a disciplined person is having the goal of becoming disciplined. Now that might sound obvious, but it's not. Because we have in our heads not the goal of becoming disciplined, we have in our heads the idea that I should be disciplined. As if it's something I have or I don't. I'm a disciplined person or I'm not. But that's not true. We are the sum of what we've worked on. We are the sum of what we create for ourselves. Says the Ramchal, if you don't have what he calls a cheshbon nefesh, if you don't have a daily accounting of what you've done that day in the positive and negative, to say, this is where I need work. These are the facets of my life I need work. And these are the facets of my life that I would like, that I'm doing great in, and I could do even better in. Then he says, you're not even beginning. With this over here in money, it's no different. When you have a single person and they go to get a consultation, there's a lot that they could do because they know their ideas, they know their. The problem is that because we were uneducated in private in our own minds about money, and then we get together with another person who is also uneducated in their private minds, and then we put together ideas that neither of us even knew existed, that are probably not true. Communication could break down very quickly. People could get offended very, very, very quickly. So number one of the tenements and basics of communicating in a marriage in general, definitely when we're dealing with something like finances, is the idea of listening. The not going in trying to change the other person. If the other person is a spender and one of them is very frugal, the other one is a spender, their goals cannot be to change or educate each other. Their goals need to be understanding each other, understanding where the other one is coming from. Because I can guarantee you there is beauty to it, no matter what it is. Every time I've ever done this, and I've never done it within finances, per se, but anytime we ever do this with anything else, and I can give you examples in finances that they're so easy to come up with because it's such a global issue. Especially nowadays, it's such a global issue that the examples over here would be easy. But for men, this is a lot more difficult because we tend to judge ourselves in a lot of ways based on finances. The way our wives, and we won't understand this, but the way our wives will judge themselves on how clean their kids are running around looking, right? Whereas she'll be like, I can't tell you how many times this happened. My wife is like, hey, did you get, my 5-year-old Yitzhak, like, did you get Yitzhak dressed today? I'm like, yeah. She's like, really? You got him dressed? I'm like, he got himself dressed. What's the difference? She's like, really? He got himself dressed? I'm like, yeah, he got himself dressed. What's the problem? He's very, she's like, he's wearing what he wore yesterday. I'm like, oh, Like, he slept in that? She's like, yes, he slept in that. So he's wearing what he wore yesterday. I'm like, all right, well, still looks good. Let's get going. She's like, he can't wear the same clothing to school 2 days in a row. I'm like, why not? She's like, they're going to call Child Protective Services. I'm like, for a kid wearing the same clothing 2 days? Thank God no one did that in Kolo, because I'm saying, when I was in yeshiva, if someone was calling us out, calling Child Protective Services based on the same white shirt I was wearing for a week straight, I don't know what would happen. But at the end of the day, right, it's different concepts, it's different ideas of what's important. Now, when your wife will explain to you why it's so important, though, not because they're going to call Child Protective Services, when your wife explains to you why it's so important, what the teacher sees, what the teachers are looking at, how the teacher can teach your kid differently, whether they're a god-awful mess with things coming out of their nose and who knows what, the teacher will respond to the child differently. As a human being, you start to realize, wait a second, this is important. It's just something I never realized before. As men, we don't realize. I remember my sister was once going on a date, and she's when we were single, we were close in age, and she came up to me and she was dressed for the date, and she goes, Yossi, what do you think? And I'm like, yes, I don't know. I have no frame of reference here, but yes, good. You look great, I guess. She's like, are you serious right now? I'm like, yeah, I don't know what you're asking me. You look fine. I don't know. She's like, I'm wearing 2 different shoes. They're 2 different colors. Which one do you think I should wear is what I'm asking you. I'm like, that's all on you. That's not my fault, by the way, at all. There's no way a woman would have known exactly what she was asking right away. Most people would have, caught on to the fact that she was wearing 2 different shoes. I think even one of them was high heel and the other one wasn't. It was like, there were 2 completely different shoes. But these things don't matter. And then she said, well, your first question should be, where are you going on the date? Because depending, and she gives me this whole 20-minute schmooze about shoes that I never knew, a world I never knew existed. I had no idea. I was 22 and I owned 4 pairs of shoes in my life till then. That's how many. I never knew it existed. When we start to listen to the other person, we start now and then them to us also. We start to say, don't spend on that, don't spend on that. Finally, if we're actually, instead of the reactionary explanation, because it's a waste of money, what we're saying over there is, you're a waste of money. What you're interested in is a waste of money. It's a waste of money. Why is it a waste of money? What else are we supposed to do with that money? When you say to your wife, and I'm not saying you, but if someone would say to their wife, well, I would like to save that money so that I could give our children a good life later, so that when they're in shidduchim, so that when they're getting married, so that whatever it is, I can support them, I can help them, I can do things that maybe people weren't able to do for us. Your wife is not gonna be like, or any spouse is not gonna be like over there, they're gonna be, actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I actually hear where you're coming from. Not only that, I think it's beautiful that you're thinking about our kids like that. Explaining our part and fully understanding the other part. There was a famous book written called How to Win Friends and Influence People, which, again, I always felt, I'm like, amazing book, amazing concepts, worst title ever, but because you're not going to sit on a train with that book. I mean, what kind of loser is sitting over there? How to Win Friends and Influence People. I would walk up to that guy and be like, buddy, it's not working. You're not going to be a popular person. Trust me. It's not. If you need to read a book on this, it's just not helping. It's not. But the book itself, it happens to be amazing. Dale Carnegie. And in it, he says all these different concepts, but there's one major point over there that so many people miss, but it's the main point of the whole book. He tells you to do this and to listen and that, all these things. And it's all amazing. But the main point is be genuine. You have to do these stuff for real. You can't fake it. If you live in Eretz Yisrael right now, you don't know or remember what I'm talking about. But if you live in America, you know customer service and how it could be so condescending sometimes. In Eretz Yisrael, everyone's like, they don't have to be condescending to customer service over here. They outright insult you. It's not like, they do it in a roundabout way. They outright pick up the phone and are like, I don't know who you are, but you're wrong. I want you to know that you are wrong. However, in America, they'll answer and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that is so difficult. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. Oh, I don't." And then they do nothing. They help you not accuse that. It's so condescending. You're like, "Do you think you're buying me off right now by telling me that you understand how you don't understand how hard it is? You don't understand what I'm going through right now. My phone has a little in it, whatever our big problems are that we're speaking to customer service about. But when we fake listen, we don't feel anything. When we're mochel on our kavod for a minute, when we put away our ego for a minute, and we actually sit and we actually listen, you're going to find two very big results. Number one, you have just taken the biggest step to financial freedom. You have just taken the largest step you will take. Because once you understand the person you're spending and saving with, once you understand the person that you're going through all these finances with, it is so much easier. It's step one. It's so much easier to be able to control. It's so much easier to be able to funnel, to be able to understand it. It's so much easier. That's number one. It's the first difference you're going to make. The second difference is your relationship has not only not been pressured and scarred by money. You actually start building one around money, around what you earn, around what you save, what you earn, what you spend. It starts to become an understanding between you. Any opportunity we have to create that understanding between husband and wife strengthens a bond like nothing else can. Money making it, again, I'm not the big, Gvir here or the big money analyst or financial guru, but this I do know. Money is one of the biggest opportunities for a husband and wife to get on the same page. It is one of the best and biggest opportunities for a husband and wife to be able to get on the same page. Obviously, we're dealing with healthy people and so on and so forth. Barring extreme circumstances of I don't know, shopping addiction or any of these other types of things. But being able to and this goes so deep that we don't have time for now. Why do people spend? It's because they're not feeling fulfilled. And if the relationship was better, they feel fulfilled. There's a million different concepts here. But the proof is on the bottom. The first stages is communication, not trying to change the other person, not trying to change how they think about money, but rather trying to understand what they think about money. Because the odds are, in any marriage, you're both wrong. Why? Because again, who here was really educated in money? And if you were, by the way, let's say you are in finance, you know money. It's the one thing you're educated in. You're still not educated in it. I'll tell you why. I teach for a living. I learn with people. I work with people. If Khalila, I was having an issue with my wife, I wouldn't act as the counselor. My opinion, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm a nogea bedavar. I'm involved. I'm too close to the situation. If I have a question about my kids, about how I'm raising my children, although I give shiurim on chinuch, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to my Rebbe or to someone else to ask them what they think about it, because I'm too close to the situation. I'm not seeing it for what it is. As a matter of fact, I might be too sensitive because this is what I do for a living. So it doesn't matter if you're educated in it fully, like really or not. The fact is that there are certain basics that we missed. And money plays such a constant role in our life. Every minute we're spending, every minute, not in a bad way. It just happens to be. You have bills coming to your house that you have to pay. It's part of your schedule. It's part of your private life. It's just so much. And it's so constant. Imagine if every time the topic came up, instead of it being a pressurized topic, instead of it being a worrisome topic, it actually started becoming a topic that you communicate about. that you can see eye to eye on, or that you can be respectful about. The word bills won't cause as much anxiety anymore. The word bank account won't, the word paying off won't cause interest. These things won't cause as much anxiety for us anymore. When it comes to communication and money, they have one thing very deeply in common, and that is that discipline equals freedom. The more disciplined we are, the freer we are. We develop discipline by being able to say, maybe I'm wrong, and I need to know more about this. Kol hakavod to everyone who's here right now, because you took that step, that first step of just recognition of saying, I think I can learn more about this, is incredible. Now, even if you're not in debt, even if you're not, and everything's fine, there's no end to the knowledge you could still do with that. It's amazing to be able to apply. No matter who you are, no matter what stage of life you're in, it's amazing to use. So thank you very much to Mesila, to everyone who showed up over here, to everyone who's here now. At the end of the day, when it comes to these things, we know, financial freedoms and, financial planning and financial understanding, everything gets decided. We always say everything gets decided on Rosh Hashanah, what we're going to have, what we're not going to have. But there is a constant through the year. The Rambam brings down, there's a constant through the year of the fact of what are we doing with it? If we're not communicating about it, if we're not connecting over it, if money is causing such strain in the home, you remember your parents arguing over money. If money is causing such a strain in the home, the response to it is not that more money would cause less stress. That's not the truth. I remember my wife sent me actually once a video clip of an actor talking, and he's very, 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 very wealthy. And he was talking, and he was being interviewed by someone, and he's like, the truth is, I grew up with nothing. He said, I still have that mindset. I go to sleep at night worrying about money, worrying about if I'm going to have enough. And he's like very wealthy. It's a mindset. He's not worried about money, by the way. He's worried about living on the streets again. He's worried about poverty. So no money will ever take that away. Because when something causes us anxiety, the answer is not to remove the thing, it's to remove the anxiety. If money causes problems in our communication, the answer is not more money. The answer is communication. If we can communicate properly with each other, there's nothing that can stop us. And I promise you, it spills over. You start with this, you start with money, you're going to start communicating about your mother-in-law. Yeah, she'll start seeing things your way. There's no guarantee on that. No, there's no guarantee on that one. I might have just lied, but in general, you'll start communicating about other things, about whether or not to trust that neighbor, about, your kids' teachers, about whatever it is, education, all things. But this is the start. This is the beginning of it. Use these concepts not just in your financial life. Use them for yourself. Develop discipline, develop communication, develop these ideas that your marriage will thank you. Not in 10 years from now. Next week, tomorrow, your marriage will thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Massive yashar koach to Rabbi Yossi I was on a chat with the chairman of Mesila International, who was with us for a few minutes, who managed to find a few times. He said, "Why haven't I heard of this guy? This guy's amazing." So a massive yashar koach. That was brilliant and inspiring for young and old and everyone in between, regardless of financial background, because that's what Mesila is all about. I'm pleased that Moshe Khan is also with us, who's the head of financial coaching in Eretz Yisrael. So he's here to be able to answer any questions. If anyone has any burning questions right now, we'll deal with them. Otherwise, what we can do is, if you have questions, we can deal with them at a later stage. You can contact us 0333 344 1711. That's 0333 344 1711. You can email admin@mesilauk, MESILA.UK.org. That's admin@mesilauk, MESILA.UK.org. For any questions you have about managing your money together. And also you can be in touch just about anything to do with managing your finances as a couple. So in particular, if we do have Newlyweds here, which is the aim, we have a specific Newlywed coaching program. So do feel free to be in touch with us. If you have any other questions, we'll just leave it for half a minute to see if anyone has any questions. You can use the chat function. Otherwise, a massive shakayach again to you, Yossi. Thank you so much for making the
Shkayach.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that really, I wish Be'emet, I'm not going to start divulging too much personal things. My wife will start getting phone calls, but I just want to add, it was me, not her, by the way, but still, I just want to add that my wife and I, by the way, getting married came from two extremely different financial mindsets. Not not wealth standing, but mindsets of finance, and we very different. I cannot tell you how beneficial it would have been back then to have had just getting a financial advisor. That was crazy. It was expensive. It doesn't even, no one even knew what they really did. I'm sure they do a lot, but no one knew what they did. So it didn't. Having an organization like this that would have been able, that we could have just went to and would have been able to help us, I cannot tell you how different things could have been, especially in the beginning with that. It would have been life-changing. So kol hakavod to you guys for what you're doing. It is so beautiful. And what I love about it, it's a little pet peeve of mine, is that there's no romance to it. What I mean by that is that, I work with addicts and this and that. So I always get to make it look like I'm saving the world, or I get to, right? If it's Hatzalah, they get to run out and, this and that, everyone, woo, woo. No one knows what you're doing. It's amazing because no one's going to go around being like, yeah, we were crazy in that, or we couldn't get our stuff together, or we could get it together. We just wanted more, more help with it, or more ideas on it, or whatever it was. And we went to Mesila. No one's saying it as such a hatzalas nafashis, but it is. It tremendously, deeply is. You are saving couples. You are saving children. You know what it is? If a couple young enough or even old enough gets together and is able to really get on the same page with this, and their kids don't have to hear that middle of the night argument, it is everything. It's traumatizing. I'm telling you right now. I can't tell you how many people have sat on that couch right there and have told me about how they're afraid to spend $1 because if their parents have to spend $1 for them, they won't go to therapy, they won't go to anything because my parents can't spend any money. They can't. They don't need any more financial stress than they already have. To be able to do that, you're saving lives every single day. And like I said, it's not romantic, so no one's going to go around screaming it from a rooftop. So I'm just going to scream it from a very lonely office in middle of Cleveland, Ohio.
Yossi, thank you for the chizuk. I think it's good for all of us, especially anyone from the Tzevet over here and from Mesila, or for coaches. I see we have international coaches as well over here. So that's a massive chizuk. And I think just to reiterate one of the messages that you conveyed earlier on, which is, don't wait till it's dealing with the problems. Don't wait till it's an issue. Don't wait till there's the frustration. Don't wait till there's months, years, and we've seen it time and time again, decades of frustration. When you're a young couple, you've been married 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, even a couple of years. There are things you can do now that will change the course of your financial marriage in Mitzvah Hashem. That's what we're here for. We look forward in Mitzvah Hashem to being able to serve you. One last time, just a massive shakar to Yossi. Thank you. Really appreciate you taking time from the middle of the day over there in Cleveland. So thank you. We look forward to welcoming you to future webinars. This brings to the end this series. Yesterday, we ended a 3-part series on money management topics. So we are just constantly delivering more and more topics for people to be able to improve and enhance their financial circumstances. Stay tuned. Be in touch if you want to be added to our mailing list or to our WhatsApp groups where we put out videos, infographics, and ideas every week. And stay tuned for more. Meanwhile, I hope everyone has a freilichen Purim, Mitzvah Hashem. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Amen. Shkoyach.